Hello again. So this is the second video of today. We're going over the next series of the day 5 in the plains. Supermassive versus Mad Lions. Starting right ahead with game 1. Supermassive has a Hecarim comp, right? So Hecarim with some support, mainly through Shen in this case. Mad has a nice comp, good damage share. Yeah, early we have some cross maps. Armut using his ult really effectively. This is something that you could see in the entire game. Really a heads up player. You always looking for the right moments to Shen ult. This gives Supermassive a 1.5k gold lead in 7 minutes. Even though Mad Lions got the first Herald, they do fall further behind because of some great combination plays of Armut's Shen ult and Kakao's Hecarim, feeding Kakao further with kills and EXP. Then time moves on, like we're 16 minutes. Matt is actually able to outplay a fight. Okay, Supermassive was missing some skills. But yeah, Mad Lions getting, I think it's like 3 kills, and all of them go to Rome, who was playing a Mordekaiser in this game one. Yeah, and actually able to get another fight in their favor at the Drake. They turned the entire game around. Yeah, it looks like Mad Lions was able to achieve something here after the poor early game, but it shouldn't be, because Snowflower thought, yeah, let's finish it. Goes in, gets a really great engage. And they trade a 4-for-1 in this team fight, so massively in favor of Supermassive. Additionally, they are able to secure the Baron buff. The gold leads are skyrocketing. Supermassive winning more fights with good engages, and Armut using his ult to save his AD carry, or in combination with the engage to get taunts on the enemy backline. Yeah, the game wasn't over yet, because Mad Lions was able to sneak some drakes here and there. They were actually close to Ocean Soul, so Supermassive had to be extra careful here, not giving up that drake, cause it's really OP. You don't want to lose Ocean Soul. As such, both teams were posturing around mid and the jungle river entrance. Yeah, it happened to be a 3-for-3 in that skirmish, which had happened. Yeah, Supermassive though were able to get the fight, being able to be on the rift sooner. And then while Mad Lions was like trying to contest and get the soul, Kakao was able to steal it and denying the soul. Additionally, the following team fight, they got an ace. This time not by a really great performance by Armut or Kakao, but yeah, the game was at such a stage where Zeitnot, so an AD carry, was able to perform, getting his items and then having some really good offensive positioning, maximizing his damage and dealing it. Supermassive was able to finish the game afterwards, starting the series with a win. Then we move to the second game. So Mad Lions goes for more scaling, but has a strong mid pick to play around. Supermassive on the other side go for more jungle skirmishes with some poke in mid and AD carry position, and also have a more mid-game power-centric team comp. Early game was actually going punch for punch, getting like trading some kills and both teams securing neutral objectives. But a small mistake from Supermassive's bot lane was punished by Mad Lions, enabling them to get a huge 2k lead, and then even snowballing that to a 3k lead in 15 minutes. Yeah, it was a really slow game. Mad Lions taking that early lead and then pushing it further and further, but not explosively. It was more controlled, and yeah, they weren't enabling Supermassive to get any great chances in this game. Yeah, the normal case if a scaling team comp gets ahead early, that's yeah, that's a yikes. Yeah. There's a team fight then around the Baron buff a few minutes later results in 4k lead, 5k gold lead, and the Baron buff for Mad Lion, enabling even more control over the map, pushing deeply into the enemy jungle, setting wards up, and sieging the turrets. Supermassive tried to hold against it, but they're falling further behind, losing members, summoner spells, and cooldowns, and being pushed into a corner. Mad Lion then able to get more drakes and more drakes, and yeah, in a rather unspectacular fashion, Mad Lion is then able slowly but surely to close out the game. So it shows Mad Lions had some great control, knew how to play with necessary and unnecessary risks. Yeah, and Supermassive didn't have much to say in this game. They had some moments here and there, but overall this game was dominated by Mad Lions' performance, and especially their bot lane. I thought Kaiser had a really good game in this one. We're moving on to game 3. The series is now tied at 1-1, so the winner here will be able to move to match point. Supermassive now opts for more scaling after being beaten by it, and on the other side, Mad Lions, yeah, they don't answer that style of comp, so they go with a more mid-game skirmish comp. It lacks engage, but has some dive or flank potential. Yeah, sadly for the mid-game team, it is a bit more of a slower early game, just a few kills, no major leads for either team till the 11th minute. So yeah, if you draft more early focus, you want to accelerate the game. Otherwise, you're just going to get outscaled, and the enemy team does better with their item power spikes usually than you, unless it's some really special item power spikes. But yeah, so that wasn't that well for Mad Lions. And yeah, I mentioned the 11th minute. There was a top fight, and yeah, Supermassive was actually able to win it, outplaying some skill shots here and there, getting 2 kills and a plate. Yeah, a first step in the right direction for Supermassive. Continuing that upswing momentum, they were pushing their lead into a massive fight into in the bot lane, where Mad actually gets completely clean aced 5-4-0 in the team fight. Yeah, swinging the game wide into Supermassive's favor, enabling a 3k gold lead for them. Yeah, and similarly to game 2, when the scaling team comp gets ahead, yeah, it's rather hard for the other team. Yeah, seeking aggressive fights, they push to a 10-2 kill score, so a really close game. And one of the last kills only happened rather at the end of it all. 6k gold lead, 3 drakes, Mountain Soul upcoming. Yeah, and then even some scrappy fights happen here and there. Especially there was one in top lane, but even then, Mad Lions weren't able to close the gold gap. Yeah, and even though Supermassive loses too, they still ace Mad Lions in the overall extended team fight, and getting even the Baron buff. Yeah, looks doomed for Mad Lions. Especially after they are pushed into Mad Lion's base, taken an inhibitor. But the game has extended for quite a while, and even though Mad Lion's team comp is not like super proficient in the late game, not as well as Supermassives, they still got their items now, and yeah, so they were able to march into the river, contesting the soul. And there it was where Kaiser was able to get into the backline, having a huge ult. And yeah, uh, Mad Lions were able to get the Drake, enabling them a 5-minute window where they could scale more and look for picks before they had to fight for the soul again. So yeah, these 5 minutes though, Mad Lions was not able to do anything with the time they got from Kaiser's play. So in the 13th minute, Supermassive was still ahead by 4.5k gold. Yeah, Mad Lions though getting more items, but not more kills, right? So where they were looking for a fight. But yeah, with no fancy outplays, just outstatted, outscaled in a sense. Supermassive slowly and securely placed the team fight front to back, crushing Mad Lions under their boot, and yeah, finishing the game afterwards. So both teams showed that they could play a slower style, but Mad Lions was actually able to hold a bit better against it than Supermassive. But Supermassive now with a 2-1 lead in the series at match point in game 4, able to knock Mad Lions out of the tournament. Yeah, so in this very defining game 4, Supermassive, yeah, they pick Vayne against Ezreal and the tanks of Mad Lions team comp. Supermassive's comp all around focuses around her, which is okay. Vayne got buffed, and yeah, she's quite good against Ezreal, even though he spikes earlier than her. Mad Lions, on the other hand, have a multi-threat comp. As I mentioned, Ezreal, and I think there was a Graves in the jungle, for example. And they weren't playing a mid lane tank. Mad Lions then using these threats in some creative plays, getting them a 1.5k lead in 15 minutes. Some kills and plates here and there. Overall, the game was going in Mad Lions' favor, as expected when looking at their picks. But at the second strike fight, Supermassive secures 2 kills and the Drake. And then the game was overall very slow. Both teams really needed the win in this game. So yeah, the kills per minute weren't that high. Mad Lions obviously playing around, playing for their world's lives, and Supermassive so close to victory. They don't want to risk it now that they were grasping for the best of 5 against Unicorns of Love. Yeah, so nothing much was happening. Third Drake fight happened, right? As I said before, Drakes are a huge priority today. Snowflower goes in with a great flank from Bulululu from the side, destroying the Cassiopeia from Humanoid, which was the main focus of Mad Lion's team. She was able to get multiple turret blades and kills as well as some solo XP. Yeah, she with her miasma and her tank shred was able to be a huge threat to Mad Lion's teamfight comp, and even to the Vayne herself. So the fight where she was dumpstered by the pincer attack of Mad Lion's engage, Mad Lions actually resulted, they got 4 kills and the Drake, yeah, and were able to completely turn it around and flipping the gold lead to a 2.5 in their favor actually. But Mad Lions wasn't dealing with that. Overall, their multi-threat comp and especially the Cassiopeia were doing really well. They set up a good lane matchup and good lane positioning, allocating more farm into their carries and into their champions than Supermassive was able to do. So the gold lead shrunk by quite a bit. But as I mentioned before, the third Drake was in fact secured by Supermassive. As such, it was now the soul, and yeah, Mad Lion is forced to contest in that fight. But yeah, Supermassive this time was not able to get to Humanoid, was not able to stop the DPS from her, and even though she was threatened and as such was not able to completely pop off, with her still occupying the resources of Supermassive engage and team comp, Karzik was completely unthreatened. No one was going for him, and these Ezreal, and then Ezreal, like, who can completely pop off, like deal damage with no threat. Yeah, he really popped off, was able to get many kills and deal tons of damage. After this fight, Matt got the Baron buff, and yeah, that's about it. Mad Lions, yeah, with front to backs, securing more vision around them, so stopping any flank approaches from Bulululu, who was really creative, like sneaking around for like a minute in some cases to try to get in the backline. But yeah, he was spotted out because Mad Lions was able to establish a vision cloud around them whenever they were pushing down a lane to Supermassive space. Yeah, so two quick fights from Mad Lions in succession were able to shut down the game in their favor. So yeah, now it all came down to a fifth and final game, 2-2 the score. Both teams showing their strengths in this best of 5 so far. Yeah, and yeah, the nerfs were probably playing a part in some of the plays, and especially probably in the draft. Both teams going heavily for scaling. Mad Lions though with a bit more bridge champions, but they made a heavy mistake, which would cost them dearly. They were drafting only AD carry champions or only AD champs. Their AP source of damage was mid lane Corki, which, yeah, sure, he does AP damage, of course, but he's also auto attacking. In that case, many armor items which reduce, let's say, attack speed or crit damage work also very well against it, right? Like Randuin's Omen also works very well against the Corki, even though he has this mixed damage auto attacks. And yeah, we all know from our bronze 5 games what is good against full AD. Yeah, it's not the Ramos in this case, it's the Malphite. And Armut plays the Malphite in top lane. Yeah, the strange thing is they were the red side. Uh, uh, so Mad Lions was red side, so they see the Malphite pick, and they're still not picking any AP in 5th. Yeah, overall really strange. maybe they went for the Corki because he could play more distance because he has more range than a Cassiopeia, for example, and as such he is able to as well with his W reposition from the Malphite. But yeah, that's probably a flawed way of thinking, right? You have to be so far out of range of Malphite, and that's just it, right? If you go for an AD carry champion who has a dash, yeah, you can dash away from the Malphite or maybe flash it, right? But then if you can't kill the Malphite, then so what? You gain nothing really from it. So yeah, Madline's draft was really strange, and I really liked the Malphite pick. Malphite against total AD carry comps. Like he really excels there, or like against immobile carries on the enemy team. Even though like maybe people make fun of him because he's a low elo pick, he's still really effective. And yeah, if he gets to stack armor all day, he even does damage with his W and some Thorn Mail, Sunfire Cape, Iceborne Gauntlet combination. And as you can kill him, as you can one-shot him, he will deal even more damage over time, as his W has a really low cooldown. Especially if you have some luck and you get your some cloud tracks, you can get the ult to like 25, 26 second cooldown, no problem. So yeah, Malphite really underrated pick overall. But other pro commentators like I Will Dominate have multiple times advocated for this pick. So yeah, really good to see some team finally picking Malphite. It's not an OP pick, it's not a pick in every game, right? But it has its usage and its niche picks and niche slots. Yeah. So yeah, Armut then punishes Shadow. Shadow on Graves. He was really desperate for early game action. As I said, he's a bridge champion for them, right? Graves has some early and mid game potency, but Renekton Graves ganking a Malphite who's already like I think it was level 5 and with an armor item. Yeah, not going to happen that well. He nearly double killed them, um, but he didn't go. He didn't get both of them. He just got Shadow, but that's enough, right? The Malphite now level 6, able to go for an early Bramble Vest. Yeah, the top lane was nearly over. Renekton is not able to do much there, unless he played the lane perfectly beforehand, which he didn't, because Rorome was often, yeah, Armut's punching bag, even in more favorable matchups for him. Following that Shadow again, like he's really desperate, as I said. That top lane gank was really silly. Then he opts for a bot lane gank, right? The only lane he was able to, where his bot lane was ahead, walking over some wards in his jungle. Kakao sees that and counter ganks bot lane, and this ended up in a massive failure for Mad Lions, or a massive lead for the bot lane of Supermassive. And yeah, 600 gold lead for Supermassive in the 8th minute. It's not something like astonishing, but as their comp was scaling better and opting for cheaper items, right? Tank items against the full AD comp are cheaper than the damage item the AD comp has to buy. As such, 600 gold lead with their champions and item builds is really strong. Yeah, trading Infernal for Herald was not probably their smartest play. With the pressure around the map, Supermassive could have been able to get both objectives, and the Herald was just used for Lilia. Lilia being played by Kakao in this case, as you could see on the screen. Yeah, normally you would like maybe want to have it in bot lane. I could agree with that, but in this case, the gold, the 320 gold, yeah, that's quite nice for the jungler as well, especially if it's a carry jungler. And yeah, Lilia wants to get her Liandry's quite early. It's a core item on her, very important for her damage mix maxing. So yeah, like even though the Herald usage was not optimal, I still think it was beneficial for Supermassive. Um, and then in top lane, like, there was nothing going on. Armut total rock quite literally. Then like level 11, he was able to finish Sunfire Cape and still had the Bramble Vest, looking to finish Tabis. Or Romis Renekton was completely powerless against him. He was not even dealing damage anymore. Yeah, this happens when you draft poorly, and then yeah, your jungler does some mistakes, and you play a sitting champion like Renekton, right? Even though he had quite similar CS stats, and Black Cleaver, he was not doing much to the Malphite. The Malphite could always just push the wave instantaneously and look for roams into the mid lane. Yeah, um, talking about the mid lane roam from him, Supermassive gets a 3-for-1, able to get a mid lane turret, I think, and a dragon, setting up for a 3.5k gold lead in 16th minute. Then a few minutes later, had a 5-0 and 3 Caitlyn with 2 items, and Lilia was able to complete her Liandry's in 18th minute. It's a really fast Liandry's timer. And in contrast to that, Shadow was trying to go top lane again, because like every other lane was like being punished and pushing behind. But even then, 2 versus 1, they couldn't really kill Almut. He was just walking away from them. The Graves and the Renekton just have one a slow and a stun, and Malphite can just, like, if need be, Malphite can flash R, and there's nothing Mad Lions could have done in that situation, just wasting time and already showing um, the problem the Malphite will be in later stages in the team fights. Only the Corki really would do much damage against him with the AP, but even he wouldn't be able to one-shot him or reliably shred him down. Getting then more turrets and some more picks here and there, Supermassive was able to further snowball their lead. In just 4 minutes, they were able to increase it by another 3,000. Yeah, Mad Lions was looking a bit desperate and trying some very aggressive stuff. And yeah, by doing that, they were actually able to get some kills at the third dragon fight. But yeah, sticking too long in the area, Supermassive re-engage with some TPs, and then side note, Kakao and Bolulu were completely like smurfing on them. Well, they were ahead in stats as well, so yeah, Mad Lions was just too desperate to get the Drake to deny it. But yeah, getting the dragon, getting the kills, and then even getting the Baron, it looked yeah, really doomed. And yeah, that's what it was. They were pushing into Mad Lion's base and able to crack it quite easily, feigning a retreat. Malphite flash ulti, one shots humanoids Corki. Okay, he was Half-Life, but this Corki was the only hope to deal damage to Malphite. With him dead, there was nothing Mad Lions could have done and would have done. Right? Supermassive follows up the engage and pushes Mad Lions back. And yeah, sending Europe's 4th seed home. It's the first time actually Turkey won a best of 5 against any major region. Yeah, really astonishing to see Europe's 4th seed go home. Makes you think, 4th seeds from Europe, when their 4th seed loses against a wildcard region. to be honest, Supermassive played really well. But yeah, then it makes it a bit questionable. And now in hindsight for Europe to send 4 teams. But yeah, this has to be evaluated in in retrospect, right? Maybe after play-ins we can talk about Mad Lions or Europe sending four seeds because they were able to get a second place in Worlds twice and win one MSI like 1.5 years ago. Yeah, this decision to get Europe 4th seed was heavily debated as it was made, and this this is not a good sign for the region. Further underlying the sentiment that it's just a 2-team region, right? If you look at the success of Europe in the last years, it was usually just Fnatic and G2, no other team really. So the idea of sending more than these 2 teams and even more than what is usual was heavily criticized back then. And now Mad Lions further underperforming, maybe. I mean, their summer was not that bad, but for these rookies, I'm not sure if the numbers are completely correct, but all Mad Lions players together had like less stage games than Kakao from Supermassive. So these rookies who are playing mostly at home for this split, and in summer especially, it was not a good showing for them. On stage, maybe the nerves were getting to them, quite possible. But yeah, it was not enough. It was quite bad actually in some cases. The drafts, which should have nothing to do with stage or not stage, were horrible in some cases, really bad. Supermassive was not playing flawlessly by far, they weren't, but they were the better team and had the better coaching stuff as well, setting them up with better drafts in my opinion. You have seen them on the screen. Yeah. Now coming to the super interesting part, the MVPs of this series. So for game 1, Supermassive as a whole was playing really well, and you could argue for some people there, but I gave it to Armut. Yeah, Kakao was often charging in, but Armut was not only supporting him, but also side note in some bot lane plays. Overall, his usage of the ult was really immaculate, always perfectly timed, and then the follow-up taunts in the team fights also very good. And surprisingly, even though he was roaming around, he was not falling far behind in CS or XP against Orome. So yeah, Armut is actually the top laner with the best numbers. As I said before, I will make a recap video on the play-ins, some stats for players and champions, and you will see that that Armut is really good in this department. It will be interesting to see him up against Boss. Boss had some hit or miss games on Unicorn's team, but yeah, this will be interesting. So game 2, similar to game 1, it was more of a team effort, but if I look back, some of the engages and especially the teamfight performance of Kaiser, I really like that. So yeah, I'm giving the MVP for this game. Game 3, again, Armut, like what can I say, really strong overall, heavy impact in the game. Yeah, like not much to say. Like he is one who's always there for the team, enabling like their plays, rotating around. Yeah, game 4, it's a similar story. Can't argue for any other player but Humanoid. His DPS was strong. His positioning in later team fights was really safe. Dodging the dive coming from Snowflower and Bulululu. Yeah, good, getting good numbers of damage. For 5th game, it's really difficult again. The Malphite of Armut was really good. Zeitnot as well in bot lane had a really strong Caitlyn game. But the one who enabled all of that by counter jungling, by shadowing the shadow, was Kakao. He was like really destroying Shadow and really punishing his desperate moves. And overall, even in most games, his performance was really solid, having some nice ganks for either lanes. And yeah, I want to honor that with this Game 5 MVP. But anyway, overall, the entire series, Armut in any game, he was really always better than Oromne, I feel. Yeah, so he carried this team, maybe not in every game, but he was always supporting the carries to carry. Um, Huge respect. His numbers are really good for a wildcard region top laner. Yeah, like, it's really strange, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see him against boss, as I said, and the jungle dynamic with Kakao and Anarchik will also be interesting, because both of them tend to play more around mid and rarely around top. It's more top and jungle coming top. It's more about jungler and mid laner coming to the top lane than the other way around. So yeah, this will be an interesting matchup tomorrow. Remember, Supermassive against Unicorns. Winner gets to groups. And before that, I think we have LGD against Legacy. Winner of that game will go to Worlds as well. If Legacy should win, we will 100% see 2 wildcard region teams in the World Group Stage. This is the first time ever. I mean, I think never has a major region been disqualified in the play-ins. I think LMS once, but well, LMS is not really a major region. It's LMS and Vietnam are these second-tier regions, right? Now PCS and Vietnam, they send 2 teams to Worlds, not 3 or 4. And they're also not wildcard regions, as they are not sending one team. Anyway, enough about that. I wish you all a great evening or day. And yeah, tomorrow we will see some interesting games, I hope. Yeah, stay safe and see you around.